Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. I hope you are all well on this thirsty Thursday, and this is video 2 of 3. That's it, baby, 2 of 3, because later on, we're going back into the realms of the AITA posts. That's it, baby. I'm not going to do it every day, because that'll probably get a little bit much for everyone, but I'm going to do it every so often, maybe 3 times a week, and tonight is one of those times. So keep your eyes peeled. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Smash like if you haven't already, because you're going to like this one. I know you are. Well, you might not, but do it anyway. But yes, AITA, am I the arsehole? Funny ones for you later. In this video, however, and by the way, you're looking absolutely amazing. You beautiful, beautiful person, you. Yeah, so in this video, look, straight into the meat and potatoes we go. We're going to talk about a question that was raised, right? When you're on kind of either side of the fence, I think, even if you're a guilter, if you're a pro burger, if you're a down the middler, you open yourself up to criticism. You know, either side will criticize the other one. It's part and parcel of what we do. Now, I, however, will receive daily emails of threats of violence, derogatory comments, name calling, you name it. I get it on the daily, and I find it quite funny. In fact, I'm going to be doing how can I say, loads of them. I'm going to get them all together, and then I'm going to do a video that goes through them all, the threats and the names and all of that. We'll do a live and do them all. It'd be quite funny. Because trust me, if you're a troll who you're looking to email me, or you're going to go into the comments and say derogatory things, you genuinely are wasting your time, and you genuinely can suck my nuts. So with respect of this question, I received a question because, again, you get criticisms. Whatever side of the fence you're on, you're going to get criticisms from the other side. But someone put a message down on a video that I did the other day questioning the surviving roommates. And they said, what evidence do you have? What evidence is there that they knew anything before 911 was called? What evidence do you have? Because it goes into this, you know, where they say, oh, you're just talking shit. Just talking shit. You don't know that they knew anything. So my question goes straight back to the guilters, if you like, and say, all right then, smart ass, why did 911 call happen in the first place? Why did it happen? And again, I'm doing this video. I've asked this question before. This isn't a new question. I've asked it in other videos. But I am flat out asking every single person, I want you to all put down below, whether you're a guilter, middler, pro-burger, whatever, I want you to put down below what you believe was the first domino that triggered the 911 call, and how you believe that scenario played out that led to a 911 call. Because for anybody, and this is just my opinion, and I don't mean to upset anyone by it. I don't mean to say that I'm smarter than anyone or trying, and I'm certainly not trying to say that people have done things that they haven't done. What I am genuinely struggling with, and maybe that's my lack of intelligence, who knows? Maybe I'm just somebody who is not smart enough to figure it out. That's possible. I'm not saying that I'm the smartest guy in the room. That's Tony Bruschi or Chris McDonough. But what I'm saying is I struggle massively with understanding how a 911 call can end up taking place without prior knowledge of what happened at this house. Because the story doesn't make sense. Even if you want to go down to the route of, oh, we believe our roommate has passed out, that in itself doesn't make any sense. Because we've heard that, now it would have made sense, again, it would have made sense had we have believed that the door to Xana's room was closed. If that door was closed, this whole story would have kind of made more sense and you could have accepted it. But at that point, when we then realised that Xana Kanoodle's door was in fact open, and not only was the door open, but Xana Kanoodle could have been seen from the door or in the doorway from afar, that is when this whole story falls apart. And again, I have to ask, and nobody's been able to answer it, Was Steve Gonsalves told that Xana Kanoodle's door was, in fact, shut? Was Steve Gonsalves told that the door was shut and the reason why other people were called over to the house was, in fact, to help them try to get the door open? Because I will categorically say that if that is the case, and the only person who knows is going to be the people who said what they said, and Steve Gonsalves, the recipient of whatever was said, but if he was told that, because that's what he had originally said he was told, and that is what News Nation pushed out, and that is what we were led to believe for 2 years, if that is the case, then people need to be arrested. People 100%, in my opinion, need to be arrested. I believe that a felony was committed if that is the case. But look, let's go back a bit and step back to why I find it problematic. Because if the door was open and people can see what's happening, if you believe that your friend is passed out, then I believe that you would approach them. You would walk up to them. You would go to see if they were okay. Somebody would have walked over prior to that call being made to check if Xana was okay. And I'm not even going to get into the would they have not gone and checked on Kaylee and Maddie. Do you know what I mean? I'm just focusing on this to make it less problematic, to make it less of a what? Do you know what I mean? I'm just focusing on, let's forget them for a second and let's just focus on this scenario, which seems to have been the catalyst of the call, but yet nobody can really explain the catalyst of the call. They want everybody to try and believe that the issues were found during the call itself. And I don't personally believe that makes sense. Because again, I want you, and I've said, I want you to tell me why 911 was called. Why were they called? If nobody knew anything and what happened was only found out during that call, then why call in the first place? Why call? How does that look to you? How does that entire scenario look to you? What happens? Why does, if you want to step back a bit, and what I do find odd, and maybe it's been purposefully omitted, but there is also no mention, and there's nothing in the transcript that seems to show the call. And I may have missed it. If I've missed it, I apologize, and you can correct me. But I cannot remember seeing the call, the communication, and the time of that communication that would be the call that got people to come over to the house. Now, that may have been via social media, so there may not have been a specific call. It may have been through the social media, Snapchat messaging, things like that. But we know people were called over to the house. So even at that point, you have to ask yourself, well, why were those people called over to the house? Are we truly in the realms of these two surviving roommates did nothing, absolutely nothing. They didn't venture out of their room to go and check on anything. Instead, they just called people over. And does that then feed into why the front door was open? Did they open the front door and then ask for people to come over, hoping that people would then come over and they then find this scene? And is that, in fact, what did happen? Did other people come over, walk through the front door that was seemingly wide open and find this scene? And the other girls were like, well, we've not seen anything. And now we don't want to see anything. And then they all get outside the property because somebody else has seen something. But then there has to be a conversation of, oh, fucking on. You saw someone in the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, because they'd obviously had that discussion. And what people seem to miss is that it was the neighbor, it was this other female who raised the fact that they had seen somebody in the house at around 4 o'clock in the morning, that they'd seen someone in the house. So we know that conversation was had. We know that the story had been discussed between them. So they obviously, before the 911 call was made, they knew that there could potentially be a relevance between what has happened and seeing somebody coming into the house. So that is my evidence. That is my proof, if you like, that they had prior knowledge of what had happened in that house before the 911 call was made. Because there was too many things shared on that call. The aforementioned individual being seen in the house the night before. Does that make sense? There was a tipping point. There was a first domino that went over that caused that call to be made. And I believe what caused that call to be made was that we got to a point where they had no choice but to call 911 because too much time had surpassed. I believe that the front door was opened in the hope that somebody else would walk in and find what needed to be found. Now, whether that was done earlier, whether that was done purposefully by the individuals inside the house, and then they would call people over and they would hope that they would just walk in and then go and find, so they don't then have to come out of the room and see anything again in complete ignorance. I don't know. That to me seems to be plausible. But what isn't plausible to me and what I struggle with is them not knowing anything had happened in that house and believed that it was simply a roommate who was passed out and wouldn't wake up, and that is why they called 911. Because I absolutely do not and will not ever accept that not one of them would have walked up to Xana prior to the call being made and not be able to determine that she was in fact deceased. Tell me I'm wrong. And if you're going to tell me I'm wrong, tell me why. Love you all. Mwah.